Hey, deserving listeners, 90 Day Fiancé, Last Resort, Season 2, let's watch. My name is Dr. Kirk Honda. I'm a therapist and a professor. I want to remind everyone to never bully or sternly attack any of the cast members of this show or any of these shows. And also, if you can, and you feel safe enough to advocate in the online community to others that they also not do that. Let's change the culture of reality TV audiences because it needs to change. Let's watch.
I didn't want to say right there. So he reached out, like, usually we all reach out to each other as friendly, so I thought nothing of it. But then he started, sending me emojis to, me, my body pictures, and me in the gym, he'd send, fire emojis and love eyes emojis.
And it's very much like testing the waters without fully putting yourself out.
Okay, so they're talking about Biniam, and Benny has arrived, and he reached out his hand to shake Ari's hand, and Ari took offense to that, and yeah, I just don't know what to think of it. They're framing it like it's disrespectful or something, but we just don't know. If Biniam were to talk, he might say, well, we kind of broke up, or I didn't know if she wanted to, or I don't feel comfortable hugging her at this point because of how bad it was and how she's been treating. Who knows? We just don't know. Ari was embarrassed. It's fine for Ari to be upset about it. Ari, in the one-on-one interview, is saying that he's an asshole. So maybe he was doing it as an aggression, as a hostile act. Who knows? But from the sound of it, they're separated, which is close to being broken up. So that needs to be considered. It's not like he just arrived late. So he kind of arrived late. Anyway, they arrived differently. So now we're hearing from Rob and Sophie that Benny has been contacting Sophie and kind of flirting and invited her to Vegas or something. So this certainly does lend credence to the possibility that he has been cheating. I wouldn't be surprised if they have been this separated, and well, maybe I would be. Anyway, point is that when I hear this, I'm like, oh, that doesn't sound very good for Benny. But on the other hand, I've also watched enough of these reality TV shows to know that there are people that will interpret things. Like I remember when Hannah was going after Nick Dorcas at the reunion on Love is Blind a couple seasons ago, and the way Hannah was framing it, it was like this horrible act, even though Hannah broke up with him. Anyway. And then when Nick explained it, he's just like, no, this is what I was communicating with. Plus, Hannah, you broke up with me, so why, or we had broken up. Anyway. So, unless we see it, could Benny have just been, he might be doing fire emojis to everyone, regardless of gender on the cast, or people just like, yeah, it's great. It's good. Yeah. It's possible, but it definitely, it's a tick in the column, but I don't know. I don't know if well, I guess it does kind of matter, but more fundamentally, I just wonder about the status of the relationship. I wouldn't be surprised let's make some predictions. So I wouldn't be surprised, and who knows, so Ari and Benny, I wouldn't be surprised if by the end of this they're there for 3 weeks at this resort. I wouldn't be surprised if at the end, so they're supposed to do some kind of ceremony at the end, like recommitment or something. But with Ari and Benny, it would be to be back together or not. If they just want to. So I wouldn't be surprised if they just had status quo, where they're not ready to pull the plug, but they're still very much essentially separated. But who knows? I just can't see I can't see them repairing, because I don't think they've ever really repaired, or barely they've repaired. Anyway, and especially if they're not living in the same area, I think it at the very least raises Ari's paranoia and causes her to attack Benny unfairly. And over time, I'm guessing it opens the door for Benny to actually cheat, which doesn't make it okay. But Brandon and Julia, I could see them being mostly fine by the end, barring any shenanigans of, sort of emphasizing their conflict for the sake of the show or something. I can't imagine them breaking up over the course of these 3 weeks. I could see them getting into some things. It sounds like they're starting to get into the more intense conflicts about kids and this sort of stuff and sex. Gino and Jasmine, I could see them in the same place at the end of this 3 weeks where Jasmine is upset about their lack of intimacy and Gino is just kind of retreating, or I don't know. But I could see them on it, the way things are sounding. It kind of sounds like, unless something really drastic happens and they actually go to ongoing therapy outside of the show, I wouldn't be surprised if they do break up at some point. But I don't know. I think they have a pretty high tolerance for conflict because they're still together. So there could be a lot of conflict before they actually decide to pull the plug. Rob and Sophie, I have no idea. It sounds like they're not really together now. It sounds like they might have just gone on the show just to be on the show. I don't want to accuse them of that, but it's possible. The way they were talking, there's a chance that they could get some headway with recovery from infidelity during the 3 weeks. They're isolated from the outside world and they're, there to enjoy each other. So it seems like there is somewhat of a spark left, maybe. But I wouldn't be surprised if at the end they're just like, yeah, they won't phrase it this way, but they were done before they even came on the show. And either this was a last-ditch effort, which rarely works, or they weren't really, one or both of them weren't really interested in trying to work things out on the show. Stacy and Florian, I imagine, will be in the same place. I can't imagine anything happening that would be that much of a revelation that would cause them to break up. I mean, they've been together a long time, and maybe then the way they were talking, it doesn't sound like there's that much going on. Like Rob and Sophie aren't even together. They broke up a few months ago. Ari and Binny are essentially everything but divorced. Stacy and Florian, there's nothing. There's still issues, but it just looks like normal stuff for them, whether or not that's a good thing or not. Natalie and Josh, I imagine it'll be the same in that I could see Josh at the end of the season saying something like, you know what, being here, it kind of makes me wonder if maybe I could commit, but ultimately he doesn't. Or I could see them breaking up because they have a casual sex relationship on and off. And they were broken up until recently. Josh went through a difficult time with his son getting in that car accident, and Natalie was there, and that's when they reconnected. So once that subsides, then they'll probably go back to not being together because they were not together for a reason before that. You know what I mean? Anyway, so those are my predictions. I'm guessing some of you know the answers. I'm guessing I'm wrong with at least half, but that's the joy of watching the show. It's suspenseful.
Yeah, I didn't want to say anything, but her man has been messaging me on Instagram.
Okay, so I continued watching, and then I was like, wait, did I miss? So I'm sure some of you were already commenting below. Sophie was talking about Josh, not Binny. So, yeah, that's what you're going to get when I'm watching my real reactions. Sometimes because there's a lot of people, and I'm trying to, anyway, there's really no excuse other than I just didn't hear it right. But anyway, so I'm going back. So okay, I have to rework my entire thing here. Okay, so Sophie and Rob are talking about Josh and Natalie, Josh reaching out to Sophie. Okay, well, that's, Josh is on and off. Well, one, Josh has never been committed to Natalie, which means Josh and Natalie can date and flirt with whoever they want, within reason. Meaning that you wouldn't want to flirt with Natalie's sister or friend or something because that would be too hurtful. But Josh can certainly date someone I don't think Sophie had ever met Natalie before. So Josh could do that. Plus, Josh works in the modeling industry or something, so maybe it was something along those lines. It should be clear, right, if Josh is going to reach out to someone on Instagram, which one it is. Is this friendly? Is it flirty? Is it business? Anyway, doesn't sound like that was clear. And so Josh, now it could be considered uncouth if Josh is flirting-ish with Sophie while Sophie is officially with Rob. But we also know that Rob and Sophie broke up. So there's a pretty good chance that Josh was single, Sophie was single, and Josh was one single person was mildly flirting, if that, on Instagram with another single person. So the tense music means nothing. We have to remember that the show wants us to believe that drama is happening, whether it's happening or not. So sometimes you have to walk yourself through it, like I just did. It's just like, okay, there's a good chance. Well, one, Josh has always been single since we've known him. He's never been in a committed relationship, which is explicit, right? Which means cheating, unless there's an agreement, like Natalie would say, okay, we're not in a committed relationship, which means both of us can date and have sex with other people, but certain agreements about, protection, or I don't want you to get committed to someone and still be with me. I want to know if you're on the road to being committed with someone, you know what I mean? I don't want you to have, whatever, you have those conversations. Usually people don't, but anyway. So sometimes we have to kind of walk ourselves through that. At least I think I'm understanding that right.
No way.
Now I need alcohol.
I didn't want to say right there. So he reached out, usually we all reach out to each other as friendly, so I thought nothing of it. But then he started, sending me emojis to, me, my body pictures, and me in the gym, he'd send, fire emojis and love eyes emojis.
And it's very much like testing the waters without...
Now, outside of whether or not it's cheating, because it doesn't sound like it is, even if it was flirting, you could say that Josh is... I don't know, I don't like the word creepy, but you can say that Josh is being awkward about flirting with people that are kind of in the same circle. I mean, Sophie and Natalie are, I think they've just met for the first time and would not have known if they would ever have met at some point. The 90-Day Fiancé universe is pretty big, but it is a universe, and there's a set amount of people, and so you could say that Josh is being uncouth by hitting on someone, but so I'll say that.
And Rob, we were I liked it because he was like, let's see if he crosses it. And that's when he was like, I'm going to Vegas. You should come with me on my flight. And I was like, oh my God. Why would he come? Why would he come to Vegas?
Oh my gosh. And as far as he knows, we just got married.
You know that
guys are still married,
information
right?
is...
Okay, so that says something. I had that question because we know that Josh has not been in a committed relationship at all over the 3 years that we've known him. He hasn't been in a committed relationship with Natalie. So I'm assuming that Josh, has been dating other people, either during dating Natalie or in between, because they've been on and off. My impression of Natalie and Josh is that they've been more off than on over the past 3 years, but who knows? And then, because they live in different cities, and anyway, so for Rob, he is saying, as far as Josh knew, Sophie and I just got married. I think meaning, okay, behind the scenes we were having some troubles, but as far as anyone knew outside of the inner circle, we had just got married. So he was hitting on a woman that's in a committed relationship. And if true, then that's super sleazy. And the way that Sophie talks, she doesn't seem like the sort that would just completely exaggerate, but I don't know. And Rob as well. I don't know. Maybe it's just because I don't know them that I'm assuming that. But so, they're saying, it was sort of a ramp up. It sort of was a progression of emojis and then this and that and then DMs and then, hey, I'm going to Vegas. Why don't you fly out with me, right? And I'm guessing that Sophia would say, well, he did say that it was a modeling gig and blah, blah, blah. But it didn't sound like it. It sounded like more for pleasure, And, okay, let's say that it was friendly, which it doesn't sound like it was. But let's say that it was. Well, then it would be explicit. This is just platonic, or it's for business. There's no funny business. or he would say, and make sure it's okay with Rob, or he would DM Rob and say, hey, the two of you should come, right? Right. That's what you would do. If you were truly just being friends and platonic, you would invite Rob as well. So the fact that he's not, that's dirtbag behavior to hit on someone that is if you're just going to be explicit and say like, hey, I'm flirting with you, or hey, we should date, I know you're in a relationship, but do you want to have an affair with me? That's pretty sleazy. But it's another thing to do it and act like, you're a friend and to sort of weasel your way in. So, ick.
He's chill and relax.
Yeah, he's chilling. He's
It's
chilling.
easy. I think it's easy to just assume, but we don't know.
I don't know why you refused about my social media. Just
You need to grow up.
like this
Very-
is over controlling.
Okay, I'm liking Rob more and more as he talks. I don't know, maybe he's a big jerk face, but I don't know if you caught it, but everyone was speculating about Ari and Benny and others, and Rob's like, well, we could assume, but we don't know. And that kind of shut the conversation down, which I appreciated. Now I'm guessing the producers aren't happy about that because they want the drama, but anyway, because we don't know. It's all over the board. Benny could be a big jerk face and have been cheating and all sorts of things, but we don't know. I think it's easy to sympathize with I don't know. Sometimes I'm surprised with who sympathizes with you. I'm guessing there are people who sympathize with either Benny or Ari. To me, they both seem like good people that are suffering from a very common issue that will spin out of control slowly over time. And I've already described what I think is happening. But anyway, but the thing is I don't know where they're at now. I had a pretty solid conceptualization or hypothesis when I was last watching them, a few years ago. But I don't know where they've been since then. But anyway, so he's saying you're being controlling and about his social media, like she dictates what he can and cannot say on social media. I don't know. This episode is sponsored by BetterHelp, and if you sign up, please use the link below because that really helps us out. So October 10th is World Mental Health Day, and this year, BetterHelp wants us to recognize how therapists around the world are truly making the world a better place, if I don't say so myself. And, I don't know where I'd be without the therapists that I've been to over the years, from the therapist that I went to in graduate school who challenged me, had the courage to challenge me on things that I definitely needed to be challenged on, to the therapist I've had more recently who supported me through some very difficult times. Finding the right therapist can make all the difference in the world. And for over 12 years, BetterHelp has been fine-tuning their process of matching people with the right therapist. So this World Mental Health Day, we're celebrating the therapists who have helped millions of people take a step forward. If you're ready to find the right therapist for you, BetterHelp can help you start that journey. Our listeners get 10% off their first month at betterhelp.com/Kirk. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/Kirk.
Vinny's been obsessed about getting his social media passwords from me. I have them because I was his business manager for his career as a stunt.
What? He's obsessed with getting his personal passwords? Why would you have them why would he not have them? Fine that she could have them, but why would he not have them? Yikes. And they've essentially been separated, and he doesn't have the passwords to his own business accounts, is what I'm hearing. Yeah, that is controlling. That's classic controlling behavior. Classic abusive controlling behavior. Now, I don't know if she's abusive. I don't know if that's what's happening, but that's a classic abusive, and specifically, it's kind of a classic preoccupied abusive thing. So I don't know about Ari, but what'll happen is the paranoia and the control. So for a lot of intimate partner violence perpetrators, regardless of gender, their primary terror and distortion is that they're going to lose their partner. And their method of coping with that is through control. And they believe that And we all do this to some extent, not abusively, but all of us will worry sometimes about losing our partner, and we will all have at least part of our strategy, potentially, depending on the configuration of relationship. Polyamorous people have a different, but even polyamorous relationship. Point is that we all have a method of trying to figure out if the person that we're with truly loves us and is lying to us or not. And we all have a method of putting rules on the relationship, right? Like when Stacy and I started our relationship, we defined things and we were clear about it. And one could argue that that's controlling. We wouldn't use that word, but it does exert some control over the other person, or at least it's asking for it, right? That, okay, I'm not going to get together or date anyone else, and I would like you not to do that as well. We don't usually call that controlling, but it's kind of in that, it's on the spectrum, right? So you can imagine how someone with problems and their own attachment, massive insecurity, and also having been modeled, particularly often it's men that are being taught that they're supposed to control women, but really it doesn't matter the gender. And you could imagine that being massively distorted and expanded into this very monstrous form of, not only am I going to dictate that rule, but I'm going to now control, I'm going to come down on you hard if you don't come home from work on time, or I'm going to demand password to your phone so I can see who you're texting, or I'm going to install a app on your phone so I can spy on you, or I'm going to put a device in your car so I can follow, or I'm going to beat you so you know that you can't step out of line. There's various different underlying foundations for the motivation to go down a campaign road of intimate partner violence, control, and coercion and abuse, but this is often one of them. And so for these individuals, preoccupied attachment or insecure attachment is the genesis of it, at least in my opinion. And for these people, they will do what they can to get control, especially as they get more worried. And you can imagine Ari, I don't know, but you can imagine Ari, even during the good years, she was still worried that she would, because the thing is how does she have the passwords to begin with? She must have wrested them out of his control or demanded that she have them, and he gave in, which I could imagine him doing. We've seen that before. If it's okay, fine, and if that'll make you more secure, then okay, you can. And sometimes that can be a way to help the preoccupied people. It's like, look, I'm not cheating, so whenever you want my phone, here's my phone. And I've actually done that with people. It's not great because the person doesn't have any privacy anymore, but it can be lesser of several evils, so to speak. But, and it can be functional. Like if my wife asked for my phone, I would have no problem giving it to her. At least, I mean, there's nothing on there that would be along those lines, but maybe there would be something on there like I'd be talking shit about one of her family members or something. I don't know. So maybe I'd have to think about that. Not that I wouldn't do it in front of her face, but maybe I said it in a way, so that maybe there'd be something like that. But I still would be okay if she wanted, and I would just, have to have a conversation about why I was wording it that way, or who knows. Point is that it's not necessarily a horrible thing anyway. So I don't know, but I could imagine that somehow, I don't know, maybe we'll find out some details, but we're hearing, and her wording of it, that's the way an abusive person talks. Oh my God, she's so obsessed with having her own phone. I mean, she's like obsessed with having her own. I mean, who needs a phone? Like, she's like addicted to her phone. You know what I mean? Or she's like obsessed with like wanting to have friends all the time. She's obsessed with like going out with friends. I mean, it's like she's a mom. She should stay home. He's obsessed with having his passwords to his own accounts, his professional accounts. Yikes.
Vinny's been obsessed about getting his social media passwords from me. I have them because I was his business manager for his career as a stuntman, fighter. But 7 months ago, I found Vinny exchanging phone numbers with this woman and talking to even some other women online.
So even if that's true, even if he was cheating, it doesn't justify not giving him his passwords to his own accounts. Now, again, if they had an agreement, then they have an agreement, but it doesn't sound like that they do.
And then Vinny posted a picture of him kissing another woman.
Okay. Yeah, that's pretty concrete. So, yeah. I'm guessing for those of you who had watched the show, you're like, Kirk, just wait. There's no mistake. Yeah, there's no mistake. I mean, I guess AI maybe, but that's not likely. So, yeah. Yeah. Wait, and he posted these? Wait, what did she say?
Was with this woman and talking to even some other women online. And then Vinny posted a picture of him kissing another.
He posted a picture. So that's, what do we call that? A passive breakup or a passive fuck you to Ari? I mean, something, right? Because Benny is famous, right? Plus, Ari, they're married, so she would occasionally see his feed or something. But, okay. So, okay. I'm going to take a guess and say that Benny would claim I wasn't cheating because we had broken up. That's just my guess. That could be right or wrong. But given even the little bit that Benny has said thus far, I imagine that would be true because he's coming at this like I haven't done anything wrong and I don't understand why she. And so I was thinking that he just hasn't been with anyone else or he thinks he can get away with it or something. But if he's posting that, then I don't know. We'll see.
So I changed his social media password because, I mean, it hurts me to see all of those things that he did.
Okay. So initially she says that she had the passwords because of being his manager, which I'm guessing was the way that she would frame it. I'm guessing he would frame it as she demanded that she have that she know my password, you know, blah, 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 because of her insecurities. And so I gave in. And then why would he post something? And then then she changes the password. Wait, what's her justification?
So I changed his social media password because, I mean, it hurts me to see all of those things that he did.
All right, that was edited, but she's admitting that she changed his password as a hostile retribution, which is not a good sign for their marriage. If you're actively, and then if she did it one day and then wakes up the next day and says, well, okay, I'll give him his password back and tell him that our relationship is over. So yeah, it just kind of sounds like their relationship is over, right? But I could also see Benny thinking that he's broken up when he has not broken up. Like he would claim, I told her because I said, I can't deal with this anymore. And so I started dating. Like, I don't know. I'm making up a bunch of shit, but we'll see.
And now it's like the more he asks me for this, the less desire I have to even give it to him.
I don't want to control me.
Yeah. So not okay. There's a lot of not okays here, I think. But yeah, you gotta give him his password. I mean, at this point, it could be like a legal issue, right? Because if it's his business account, you know, at least a civil suit issue. And so you're just doing it out of retribution. That's the only reason why. I mean, I guess, you know, maybe she could make the justification of, I need to have his password so that I know if he's cheating on me. And okay, that at least would make some sense. It still doesn't. It's still not a viable solution to build a marriage, you know.
Within my social media, and then just I want to do that.
I've never controlled
Just
you.
give it
There's
to me.
impossible to control someone who does it whatever
Give me my
they feel like.
Instagram, give me my email password, just in TikTok, everything.
Well, so she's saying social media password, and I think that production tells cast members to just refer to any platform as social media, because I find that people use that phrase on the show way more than people would use in real life. Like if it's an Instagram, you'd say Instagram password, right? But it sounded like it was just one account, and I was figuring it's Instagram, but he is saying it's TikTok. It's his email. It's his email. Now, I'm guessing it's his business email, but still, I mean, yikes.
So
I
you
could
want
give
to
a about your social media.
I
It's not
know.
revenge.
I'm not fighting with you, just you do stuff.
I don't
But
want
now we
to
can
sit
just
with you
relax
anymore.
and then that's
So she's saying it's not revenge. Okay, well then, what is it exactly? From the sound of it, I mean, we still haven't heard from Benny. So, but from the sound of it, I understand why she's hurt and angry. But that doesn't two wrongs don't make a right.
better. If you can't, you just give it to me and then let me just
You're sick.
Just give it to me.
You're sick.
If you can, just. That is not fair. Just.
Yeah, I don't have much. Although sometimes I will have a lot of pessimism, and then they make up, and then they're smiling and kissing and loving. They haven't seen each other in a while, so maybe this is just the initial phase. But I don't know. The amount of resentment and contempt is the word for it, is not conducive with staying together. Because not only do you dislike the person more than you dislike maybe anyone else in the world, but in order to be in a relationship, you have to be in love. You have to have a foundation of love and trust and goodwill. And if you hate someone, it will interfere with that, obviously.
I need all my social media, everything, and because of my job. Like I'm a stuntman, I have to get clients, and I use my social media to talk to all my family. This is my social media. I have it for a long time. I built this. So I don't want to be like opening just a new account. It's not fair.
And then you think about the fact that she has massive privilege as not only a white person, but as a American-born person in the United States, as someone that has at least more resources than he does, and she's controlling him and his ability to work. Yikes. I mean, it's like Angela kind of shit, you know? I mean, let's not go that far, but...
I don't even care about the cheating. He just acts like he's so... Because he feels small inside. He feels small, so he has to make other people feel small.
I think
He's a bad person. The first thing he asked me is, I need my social media password. I deserve so much better than this.
I think this therapy.
He's asking for his passwords. You deserve so much better than that. Now, I get it. You know, she is hurt. She's hurting. Whether it was justified or not, she was hurting throughout the relationship because she was repeatedly and intensely worried and convinced or hurt that he was, at the very least, not very attentive. You know, he wouldn't text her back right away, or he was, even when they were together, he had at least on camera, he had this kind of distance in the way that he talked to her. At least my observation, who knows? Whereas she's more hard on her sleeve kind of thing. And that, I think, is just more of a compatibility thing. It's probably a camera thing as well. She seems way more comfortable on camera than he does. So she's hurting. And when you're hurting, it's literally a crazy, well, not literally, but it's a crazy time. I remember, 30 years ago when I was in graduate school and I was taking a class on divorce. I can't remember what the class was specifically on. It was with my friend now, Joe Schaub, who is a lawyer and a therapist. And he was teaching a class, I think, on divorcing or something like that. And because that's his specialty. And he assigned this book called like Crazy Time or something. And it's about how the research and anecdotal experience about just how crazy we become before, during, and after divorcing. We are at our craziest. We are at our most hurt, our most unhinged, our most volatile, and our feelings are so big and so all over the place. Even if we want the divorce, it's like that. But particularly if we don't want it. I mean, the thing that I also realized a long time ago, and I have this phrase that I'll say to myself or others, is that no matter what kind of flaws or dark corners of your psyche you think you have, you will have them illuminated and exposed and manifested in a intimate relationship. I'm pretty sure that's not the way I phrased it when I was younger, but something like, whatever sort of dark part of your personality, it will emerge the closer you get to someone, because of our dependency and our traumas, how even small ones can cause pretty significant dark corners of our psyche, meaning that our propensity to control or overreact or flip out or become distorted or, become suicidal temporarily, kind of a thing. It happens. And, she's in that. And so we're witnessing it. And I just have to remind myself of that. All right, that does it for that episode. I want to thank you all for liking any of my videos. I do look at that. There's a little graph or table that shows how many likes I get on every particular video. And it's just a nice thing. As a YouTube viewer myself, I try to do it more often because it's pretty easy to do. So I guess I would advocate on all of your YouTube activity, if, and I don't know what sort of metric we use. Some people would only give a thumbs up if they really liked it. I tend to give a thumbs up if I'm just like, yeah, that was worth my time. I appreciate the effort, even if I wasn't that into it. So I will do that just because it's just a little thing you can do. I don't know. The way that I think about it is like if I were in an audience after the play ended or the musical or something, I would clap, right? It's just like, oh, good job. Even if I wasn't, blown away by the performance, it's just like, yeah, you did a thing and I appreciate that you did that thing. And, thanks for doing that thing. So that's what the thumbs up kind of means. I suppose an even more impactful way to communicate is by commenting, which, I just recommend you do it, whether it's my channel or any channel, because I try to do that too. All right, well, take care of yourself because you deserve it. You really, really do.